You grew up down the street with Diana Ross.
Yeah, man.
Diana Ross.
Smokey Robinson's wife is definitely not happy about this. For a man whose music is all about love, fans have always wondered, did Smokey ever find the one? At 85, he finally revealed the answer, but not in the way anyone expected, and definitely not who you'd expect.
And told me I had to be there. You know, she's my baby. I've known her since she was probably 8 years old. And
Really?
Yeah.
That's
We
crazy.
grew together.
Who does he call the love of his life, and how did his wife react? Join us as we uncover Smokey's shocking confession, the one who got away. For years, fans suspected the relationship between Smokey and Diana Ross. They were two of Motown's brightest stars, but their relationship went far beyond the stage. It wasn't until recently that Smokey finally spoke more openly about that time, giving fans a glimpse into one of music's most private affairs, and his confession was quite shocking. Smokey was still in love with Diana Ross, the one woman he could never truly have, and the love of his life. During a recent interview with The Times, the 85-year-old singer was asked about his 1975 hit, The Agony and the Ecstasy, a song filled with so much passion and longing. The lyrics told of two lovers trapped between desire and duty. It was a story that many believed mirrored his own life. But when he was pressed on whether Diana Ross had inspired the song, Smokey didn't give a direct answer. Instead, he spoke fondly of her, describing her as someone precious to him and one of his oldest, dearest friends. His careful words only deepened the mystery. Those who have followed his story know that this wasn't the first time Smokey hinted at their past. In a 2023 interview, he had revealed that he and Diana once shared more than friendship. Their romance had begun while he was still married to Claudette Rogers, a fellow member of the Miracles. The two spent long hours together in the studio during Motown's golden era, where creativity and emotion often blurred the line between professional and personal. Robinson later explained that their relationship wasn't something they sought out. It wasn't even planned or driven by fame. It just simply happened, as though it was inevitable. He had been trying to help Diana with her career, guiding her through the early stages of stardom, and somewhere along the way, their bond deepened into something neither could resist. But love, especially forbidden love, rarely comes without pain. As their secret romance grew, guilt and loyalty began to weigh heavily on them both. Diana eventually made the difficult decision to end it, knowing that Robinson's heart still belonged to his wife. Her choice, though painful, came from respect, both for herself and for the woman she knew he still loved. The affair quietly ended, but its emotional mark remained. Smokey continued his marriage to Claudette until 1986, and later found happiness again with his second wife, Frances Glandney. Diana Ross went on to marry twice, first to Robert Ellis Silberstein and later to Norwegian businessman Arne Naess Jr. Decades later, Smokey still speaks about Diana with tenderness. There's no bitterness in his words, only the warmth of a man who remembers what once was. He often calls her his closest and longest-lasting friend, a sign that despite the complications of their past, their bond never truly broke. Time has passed, but the fascination with their connection is still very much strong. Smokey Robinson and Diana Ross may have moved on with their lives, but Smokey continues to yearn for what they once had and also has to respect his wife and Diana's marriage. The love he couldn't have may be the one that shaped some of his most beautiful music. In what way did the affair and open admission affect Smokey's marriages and his musical career? The ripple effect. Music has always defined Smokey's life and led him to some of his deepest loves and hardest lessons. Long before the fame and accolades, it was music that brought him together with his first wife, Claudette Rogers. The two shared the same passion for performing, and together they became one of Motown's most admired couples. They had 2 children and appeared to have the perfect harmony both on and off stage. But behind the power couple public appearance, cracks began to appear. By the mid-1970s, and it was all because Claudette discovered that Smokey had been unfaithful and was in love with another woman. That discovery was the beginning of their separation and inspired one of his most emotional songs, The Agony and the Ecstasy. The song's haunting lyrics of temptation and regret reflected what he was living as a man torn between love, guilt, and desire. Although they tried to move forward, the damage had been done. Years later, another affair led to the birth of his son, Trey, in 1984. That moment became the final turning point for the couple. Smokey filed for separation, and by 1986, their long relationship officially came to an end. Despite the heartbreak, Claudette has always spoken about their past with warmth rather than resentment. She once said that before marriage, they shared a strong friendship, and even after everything that happened, she still valued the good years they had together. Although their closeness couldn't remain the same after his remarriage, she made it clear that she still held respect for him as both a father and a person. Over the years, Smokey and Claudette managed to maintain a cordial bond for the sake of their family. He often appears in his daughter's photos, spending time with his children and grandchildren, showing that family remains an essential part of his life no matter what the past held. After his divorce, Smokey didn't close the door on love. In time, he found companionship again, this time with Frances Glandney. Unlike Claudette, Frances wasn't part of the Motown world, but she brought her own success and creativity into the relationship. A talented interior designer, she preferred to stay out of the spotlight, allowing her husband to shine while she quietly built her own path. Their connection grew over time, and in May 2002, they decided to get married. The pair later ventured into business together, launching a skincare line with Skinphonic. The collections, the Get Ready and My Girl, were inspired by Smokey's timeless hits and designed specifically for people of color. The project reflected both their shared vision and partnership beyond marriage. Now in their 70s, Smokey and Frances have been married for more than 2 decades. They live a quieter life in Pittsburgh, where they continue to support each other as both life partners and business collaborators. But fans are wondering if all their years together would go to waste due to his public confession of still being hung up on the woman who was a catalyst in the failure of his first marriage. Frances hasn't spoken out about the interview, and it's anyone's guess if she ever will. Yet, despite the bold declaration of love for another woman, the unshakable bond between Frances and Smokey was on full display. The question is, how did the world catch this rare glimpse of their timeless connection? An album that says it all. Smokey Robinson's first new album in 14 years, Gasms, was the proof the world needed to see. The title alone raised eyebrows, but Smokey saw that as the point. He said he wanted people to think about pleasure in all forms, not just the obvious one. For him, a gasm could be anything that brings joy, and his new songs explore all of it with charm and confidence. Only a man experiencing the pleasures of life and companionship could compose something with such emotional depth. The album dives headfirst into sensuality, something rarely expressed so boldly by artists his age. The title track celebrates every kind of gasm, from what you see to what you feel. His voice, smooth and soulful as ever, glides through playful lines and double meanings. Songs like Roll Around and I Fit In. They mix tenderness with humor, proving that Smokey hasn't lost his romantic side. For Smokey, the message behind Gasms goes beyond the music. He wants to remind the world that age doesn't end desire or passion. He finds it absurd that society treats people in their 60s or older as if they've stopped living fully. He insists that this stage of life feels like a new beginning, and despite being 83, he claims to feel no older than 50. When fans see him today, bright-eyed and full of energy, it's easy to believe him. During a recent video call from New York, where he was promoting Gasms, Smokey looked youthful and alert. His dark hair, golden green eyes, and confident smile hinted that he still carries the same spark that made him a star decades ago. Living in Los Angeles with his wife, Frances Glandney, an interior designer, he continues to blend love, business, and creativity. Smokey's influence on soul music cannot be overstated. As one of the founding forces behind Motown, he helped shape an entire generation of sound. He wrote My Guy for Mary Wells, Get Ready, and My Girl for The Temptations, Ain't That Peculiar for Marvin Gaye, and countless hits for the Marvelettes and the Miracles. Songs like The Tears of a Clown and Tracks of My Tears made him one of the most gifted lyricists in American music. Even Bob Dylan once called him America's greatest living poet. His life, however, began far from the spotlight. Born in Detroit to working-class parents, William Smokey Robinson Jr. grew up in a small but loving family. His parents divorced when he was 3, yet both remained devoted to him. His mother's brother nicknamed him Smokey Joe because he loved pretending to be a cowboy, a name that eventually stuck. When his mother died when he was just 10, his older sister took him in, raising him alongside her 10 children. As a boy, Smokey dreamed of becoming a dentist until he learned it required dissecting animals. That ended quickly, and music took over. He spent his days listening to records, writing songs, and performing with friends in Detroit's neighborhoods. One of those friends was Aretha Franklin, who lived just a few blocks away. Another was Diana Ross, who moved onto his street when he was 10. They all shared the same passion for music long before fame found them. Smokey and his friends often held backyard singing contests, where the Franklin sisters usually won. Those early moments, surrounded by laughter and competition, shaped the spirit of Motown. When Smokey later formed the Miracles, he took that same joy and drive with him. His big break came when he met Berry Gordy, who eventually founded Motown Records. Gordy saw potential in the young singer and took him under his wing. Together, they created the first spark of the Motown sound, leading to hits that would change music history. How did he achieve such a milestone with just his voice? The origin of Motown. Smokey Robinson always believed there was nothing like Motown before, and nothing like it would ever exist again. His journey toward that legacy began while he was still in college. One afternoon, as he sat in class, one of his group's songs suddenly played on the radio. Overcome with excitement, he jumped from his seat, ran out of the room, and decided that moment to chase music full-time. When he told his father he wanted to quit college, his father surprised him with encouragement, telling him he was young enough to try, fail, and start again if needed. Less than 2 years later, Berry Gordy gathered Smokey and a few others and revealed his bold plan to start his own record label. He had borrowed $800 from his family, determined to build something revolutionary. Music not just for Black audiences, but for the world. He pictured songs with great rhythm and powerful stories. That vision became Motown, and Smokey still insists that no other label could ever recreate what they had. By 19, Smokey had married Claudette Rogers, his bandmate in The Miracles, and the marriage ended after 27 years because of the affairs during their marriage. Thinking back to the event of the past, he acknowledged that the experience helped him understand the complexity of love, that people can deeply care for more than one person at once, and that love isn't something humans can fully control. He often said that love in all its forms was the greatest teacher of his life. Whether romantic, familial, or brotherly, he treated it as a spiritual force, something that shaped his music and his heart. He spoke with warmth about his father and his brother-in-law, who became like a second dad after his mother's death. He fondly remembered his late friends, including Aretha Franklin's brother Cecil, Sam Cooke, and especially Marvin Gaye. Marvin's death, caused by his own father, remained one of the hardest losses of Smokey's life. He often wondered what Marvin might have become if he had lived longer, describing him as a brother he saw almost every day. When rumors later surfaced, claiming that Smokey and Diana Ross were secretly Michael Jackson's real parents, Smokey could only laugh. He found it hilarious, saying he had never even heard such a story before, and joked that he would call Diana to tell her. Smokey Robinson never stopped caring deeply for Diana Ross. He still described her as one of the most beautiful women he'd ever known, and someone he continued to love and cherish as one of his closest friends. While Smokey speaks freely about his personal relationships, there are parts of his life he isn't proud of. Moments he carefully considered before revealing to the world. What could they be? The battle with addiction. His struggle began around the same time as Marvin Gaye's, though it worsened after Marvin's death. He admitted that while they both experimented with drugs, he hadn't been fully consumed by it back then. It was only later, after losing Marvin, that his addiction to cocaine took control. Those years, he said, were the lowest point of his life. Despite the darkness, one person stood by him without fail: Berry Gordy. Smokey described Gordy not just as the Motown founder, but as his best friend and brother in spirit. They shared what Gordy jokingly called a bromance, a lifelong bond built on loyalty and trust. While Marvin had been a partner in fun and youthful mischief, Berry was his moral anchor, a man who demanded discipline and stayed far away from drugs. Smokey often said that everyone in Motown respected Gordy too much to bring any kind of substance near him. When Smokey's addiction nearly destroyed him, Berry stepped in to save his life. During those 2 lost years, when Smokey said he was damn near dead, Gordy would take him into his home, lock the doors, and keep him there for days or weeks at a time, just to keep him safe from himself. That friendship, Smokey believed, was one of the reasons he survived. His final turning point came one night in 1986. Feeling broken and desperate, he walked into a church and spoke with a minister, pouring out everything he had been hiding. He claimed that what happened next was nothing short of a miracle. He walked in an addict and walked out completely free. From that day in May 1986, he said, he never touched drugs again. Among his most cherished memories from the Motown era was meeting Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The civil rights leader had told the Motown family that he wanted to deliver his "I Have a Dream" speech through Motown, because what they were doing with music was the same as his political dream, uniting people of all races and backgrounds. King told them that they had already achieved something powerful. They had brought the world together through song. When Smokey Robinson looks back on the early days of Motown, he remembers a time when music quietly changed America. In those days, audiences were divided. Black kids sat on one side, white kids on the other. But within a year, something magical happened. When Motown returned to perform again, those same crowds were no longer divided. White boys had black girlfriends, black boys had white girlfriends, and it was all because of the music, Smokey recalled proudly. We gave them a common love. It wasn't just about catchy tunes or chart-topping hits. It was about unity. Music had become a bridge between people who were once separated by color. Smokey said that soon after, the Motown team began receiving letters from white teenagers saying how much they loved the music, but they had to hide it from their parents. Our parents don't know we have it, because if they did, they might make us throw it away, the kids wrote. But a year later, new letters arrived, this time from the parents themselves. We found out our kids were listening to your music, so we started listening too. We love your music, and we're glad the kids have it. For Smokey, that was one of the proudest moments of his life. It wasn't just fame or awards, it was proof that Motown had done something deeper. "I'm so proud we started to break down barriers," he said with emotion. Through rhythm, melody, and soulful lyrics, they brought people together in ways that politics and speeches couldn't. Despite his musical success, Smokey still laughs when asked if he ever regrets not becoming a dentist, a career he once considered before fame called. "No," he said, "I think I could have been the greatest baseball player in history, but my career would have been over 50 years ago. If I'd been the best dentist, I'd have been retired for 20 years. But music gives you longevity if you love and respect it." That love and respect for music have kept Smokey humble through decades of success. He believes fame should never make anyone forget their roots. "You didn't start it, and you're not gonna finish it," he said. "Don't get a big head because you've got a record out or people recognize you. You're just someone blessed enough to have your dream come true." He often reminds young artists that music existed long before them and will continue long after they're gone. "Don't get hoity-toity because you've got a hit record," he advises. "This started way before your great-grandmother was born and will go on long after you." When asked if fame ever made him proud or arrogant, Smokey smiled and shook his head. "No, I had a better upbringing than that. I was always taught that being human is the best thing you can be. You don't get bigger than that on our planet." Before ending the conversation, Smokey was asked one last question. What was his favorite gasm? A playful nod to his album Gasms. He laughed softly before giving a thoughtful answer. "If you're gonna start with the world, I'd say God is my favorite gasm. But other than that, love is my favorite gasm. I wish love on the world." While his new album was making waves, Smokey found himself under the shadow of serious allegations, casting a new controversial light on the man who has long preached love. What exactly are the details behind these claims? Criminal investigation over serious allegations. Smokey has found himself at the center of a serious controversy and is now under criminal investigation following a lawsuit filed earlier this month that accuses him of subjecting 4 former housekeepers to sexual misconduct over several years. A spokesperson for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department confirmed that the investigation is in its early stages but did not provide further details. The development follows reports first shared by TMZ, linking the criminal inquiry to the lawsuit filed in Los Angeles County Superior Court. The plaintiffs' lawyers, John Harris and Herbert Hayden, stated that their clients are fully cooperating with the ongoing investigation. They said the women were seeking justice not only for themselves, but also for others who might have experienced similar treatment. Smokey Robinson's attorney, Christopher Frost, responded firmly, saying the singer, whose real name is William Robinson Jr., welcomes the investigation. He expressed confidence that authorities would ultimately find Smokey innocent of any wrongdoing. Frost claimed the lawsuit was an attempt to damage Smokey's reputation and turn the matter into a media circus. He added that the accusations were nothing more than a manufactured lawsuit intended to tarnish the good names of Smokey and Frances Robinson, describing the claims as being driven by greed rather than truth. The lawsuit, however, paints a grim picture. It accuses both Smokey and his wife, Frances Robinson, of creating a hostile work environment. Filed in Los Angeles County Superior Court, the suit seeks $50 million in damages. The plaintiffs, identified only as Jane Does 1 through 4, are all former housekeepers who worked for the couple over different periods. One of the women alleges that she experienced unwanted sexual contact at least 23 times between 2014 and 2020. Another claims she suffered at least 20 incidents of the same allegation during the 12 years she worked in the Robinson household. Smokey Robinson, who was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987, is described in the suit as having abused his position and influence to exploit vulnerable workers. Attorney John Harris said the women were low-wage employees who stayed silent for years because they feared losing their jobs or suffering retaliation. According to the lawsuit, 3 of the plaintiffs were also worried that speaking out might jeopardize their immigration status, leaving them feeling trapped and powerless. The plaintiffs, anonymized in the filing, claimed that Smokey exploited their vulnerable positions as low-wage workers, asserting that they had no resources or options to protect themselves. Legal representatives for the women have described Smokey as a serial and sick molester, whose alleged actions must be stopped. Francis was also accused of using racially offensive language and of being aware of the alleged sexual misconduct. According to the plaintiff's lawyer, Herbert Hayden, Francis allegedly leveraged their status and the plaintiff's financial reliance to control and intimidate them, effectively keeping them silent. The allegations come as a shock to many fans, given Smokey's long-standing reputation as a gentle and revered figure in music. While the investigation continues, public reaction has been mixed. Many fans have expressed disbelief, given Smokey Robinson's long-standing image as a respected music icon. Others have called for patience and fairness, insisting that the legal process must run its course before any conclusions are drawn. Has Smokey addressed this issue or said anything in his defense? Smokey has broken the silence. Smokey's attorney, Christopher Frost, has strongly denied the allegations, describing them as vile, false, and intended to exploit the singer financially. He argued that the claims are simply an ugly method of trying to extract money from an 85-year-old American icon. Christopher further called the allegations inconsistent and implausible, questioning the timelines and the relationships described in the suit. He also accused the plaintiff's lawyers of orchestrating bizarre theatrics and attempting to drag the public into what he described as a media circus. Despite the gravity of the claims, Smokey maintains his innocence. Christopher has indicated that Smokey will respond personally and that a motion to dismiss the lawsuit is forthcoming. Smokey definitely did not stay quiet for long. He and his wife have launched a $50 million countersuit against 4 former employees who accused him of rape. The countersuit, which was filed in Los Angeles Superior Court, paints the women as opportunists looking to profit from false claims. Smokey and his legal team, led by attorney Christopher Frost, insist the women first tried to extort $100 million from the couple to keep quiet. When their demands were refused, they turned to the courts. In the new countersuit, the Robinsons stress how the accusations have impacted the singer personally and professionally, noting the recent release of his album What the World Needs Now and the fallout from the scandal. The countersuit also hits back at the timing of a press conference held by the plaintiffs and their lawyers on the same day the lawsuit was filed. Because of the plaintiffs' slanderous statements, the Robinsons had no choice but to seek legal relief, the filing states. While plaintiffs may make certain claims in court documents, they cannot use public press events to defame us. Smokey's filing goes further, presenting a detailed account of the couple's generosity. From dental work and cars to other forms of support, the Robinsons argue that they went above and beyond for the women during their employment. Yet, according to the countersuit, once the women left, troubling issues came to light. Several financial records went missing, including bank statements, and at least one plaintiff allegedly had precise knowledge of their location. The filing suggests that this access extended to a hidden safe containing valuables, including gold Krugerrands, which were later stolen. The Robinsons reported the theft to the police and imply a connection to the former employees' insider knowledge. As household staff, they had particular knowledge of where the Robinsons' valuables were kept. The countersuit notes, the lawyers for the 4 women have not commented on the countersuit, leaving the public and media to parse the back-and-forth claims. For a singer once celebrated as Motown royalty, the controversy marks one of the most serious challenges of his career. Amid the controversy and legal battles, fans can't help but wonder, how has Smokey Robinson managed to stay calm, focused, and creative at 85? Still making music, still inspiring. At 85, Smokey Robinson isn't slowing down. The Motown legend is back in the spotlight with a new album, What the World Needs Now, and a tour that celebrates decades of music. On a recent appearance on CBS Mornings, Smokey shared why music still drives him, even after more than half a century in the business. The album leans heavily on classic songs, including familiar favorites like Lean on Me and Three Little Birds. But it's not just about nostalgia. Smokey said the project was inspired by songs meant to uplift and inspire. He also reflected on a brief retirement from music that lasted 3 years. I stepped away for a while, but I realized I couldn't live without music. There's nothing else that gives me the joy or the feeling that performing does, he explained. Even now, decades into his career, the stage remains his true home. This year, Smokey is celebrating the 50th anniversary of his classic hit, Quiet Storm, a song that helped define an entire genre and made him a music icon. On his ongoing legacy tour, he's not just performing the hits fans know and love. He's also introducing tracks from his latest album, connecting the past and present in each show. Even in an era dominated by streaming, social media, and new music trends, Smokey's voice remains timeless. His songs, both old and new, carry a message of love, empathy, and hope, a reminder of the power of music to inspire and heal. His passion shows no signs of slowing. From his early days at Motown to his current tours, he continues to captivate audiences with the same charm and warmth that made him a legend. With What the World Needs Now, Smokey proves that even at 85, he's not just looking back. He's moving forward, sharing music that speaks to today while honoring the rich legacy he's built. Fans can expect shows that mix nostalgia with inspiration, old hits with new renditions, and the unmistakable presence of a man who has devoted his life to his art. As for his physical fitness, Smokey always makes time for an early morning round of golf, a sport he describes as the heroine of sports. For him, golf is more than a hobby. It's the highlight of his wellness routine, which also includes 37 years of yoga and a strict diet free of red meat since 1972. Golf, for Smokey, offers a similar kind of freedom and focus. It allows him to start the day early, clear his mind, and prepare for performances that demand both energy and precision. Combined with his decades-long dedication to yoga and careful diet, it's a regimen that keeps him sharp, physically, mentally, and creatively. What do you think of Smokey's impact in the musical world? Would this scandalous lawsuit alter the way his fans have seen him for years? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.